at $1 per share, right? So the new investor will be buying shares in the company at $1 per share. If you have a 20% discount, your investment that was prior to this one will convert, but at $0.8 per share, so 80 cents a share. And that 20 cents is your upside. It's basically rewarding you for investing early in the company. And there can be a combination of a valuation cap and a discount, but those things go from investor per investor. Next, we have a convertible note. Convertible notes are similar to safes, just more complex because they're a debt instrument. When an investor gives you money through a convertible note, you owe that investor, but it is convertible because you pay them back in shares instead of money. Now, the thing with convertible notes is the thing that I don't like is that they have an interest rate, which means that you sort of owe more and more as time goes by. And that's a lot of pressure on a company because you have to constantly outpace yourself to be able to convert or pay that note in shares and be able to actually give the least amount of shares possible. Because if not, the note could just balloon and they'll own a lot of percentage of the company, which they want, but you don't want, right? So there's this sort of quarrel for in fundraising that is a very interesting concept because both of you want the company to grow, but you have different goals in mind. They want to own more of the company, and you want to own more of the company, but neither one wants to do it at the expense of the other. That's a very weird thing to me, but it is what it is. And then there's debt that we touched on before. I won't go too deep into it, but basically you go to either a regular bank or someone that can give you money to grow, and then you take that, it'll have an interest rate too. Typically does has a few covenants, which means that if you don't pay the debt, 2 months in a row, then they can own your company or own a large percentage of the company. Those things happen too. So you have to be very careful if you run fundraise through debt. And then there's equity crowdfunding or equity fundraising where you sell the equity directly at a current valuation and you're done. You're just selling pieces of the company, and if someone pays you money, you give them a piece of the company, and that's where the transaction ends. And then they can hold on to that piece of the company and sell it later, but that's when you just sell equity. Then you have the methods, the most popular methods for crowdfunding, for fundraising, and I'll touch just a little bit on them because I covered them before. So first you have crowdfunding, where you reach out to the public, raise awareness, and support for your startup. Crowdfunding is pretty new. I think it's been around for the past 8 to 10 years, I would say max, where regular people could go in and invest. And you've probably heard of platforms like maybe WeFunder or Start Engine, that's specifically for startups, or Indiegogo or Kickstarter. Those are all crowdfunding platforms that people use to develop a product, develop a service, sell it, etc. Then there are the angel investments, or the angel investors, who are select qualified investors that believe in you and your team and decide to put some money into you in expectation of a return in their exit. Always remember that. And then there's a venture capitalist like that we've mentioned before, and venture capitalists use convertible notes almost exclusively because they can do a lot, or they can put a lot of conditions in the notes, and then it just works better for the transaction. So these are typically organizations which are called institutional investors. Crowdfunding and angel investment can be retail investors, but VCs are typically institutional investors, which are just companies or organizations that make investments. They're dedicated solely to investing in companies and maximizing returns. That's why they exist. It's an exchange of just money for money and done. So I want to touch before we finish here on the fundraising phases. These are typically what the startup will go through as they raise. This is just the typical path. Of course, there are going to be outliers that don't do this or do something very different. But in any case, these are the main ones. So you do a friends and family round where you go to friends and family and say, hey, this is what I'm doing. I need 5 grand to start. I need 20 grand to start. I need $50,000 to start. And then your friends and your family are going to put that towards you. Now that is good and bad because it's good because it gets you somewhere to start, and you can use that money maybe depending on who your friends or your family are. Maybe you have less stress because it's friends and family and they trust you, or maybe you have more stress because it's friends and family that trust you with their money, or maybe you don't have it or aren't able to lose it. But in any case, the bad thing about it, or the potentially dangerous thing about it, is at the friends and family stage, you're not well versed enough as a founder to know how to structure a round. So that means that you'll take money from them, but then you'll never have them sign a stockholder agreement or stock purchase agreement. So they never really owned anything in the company. And when you grow, they start asking for their money back or saying, oh, I thought I owned this much of the company. I thought I owned that much of a company. So that can be very, very, very messy on the legal side. But nonetheless, if you do your research, a friends and family round can be great. And then you go to the angel round, where using the friend and family money, you can say, hey, I had very little money, but this is how much I was able to do. This is how many users I spoke to. This is how much maybe revenue I'm making, maybe. And this is what we plan to do. And the angel investor will put money in, expect a return. Then there's the pre-seed round, which is sort of a bridge financing. It's something that's in between two rounds of financing that just help you get there, right? So a pre-seed round is if the angel investor money is running out, but you don't have enough results to show a venture capitalist for a seed round, you do a bridge financing where either new angel investors come in or the existing ones put some more money in to be like, hey, okay, we'll push you through. We'll give you that little push you need to get the customers you need or to get the revenue you need, and then you go into the seed round where things really start happening. At the seed round is where people know that you found product market fit, which means that your product serves the market that it's intended for and it fits. And that's pretty much the holy grail, and that's where the journey of a startup really starts. Because with product market fit come happy and unhappy customers that you have to constantly build and iterate for, but it's a lot of fun. And then there's after you have your seed round, and maybe it's a year and a half, 2 years in, where you can start seeing a path to profitability. Then you go back out there and say, okay, we've found product market fit. We have sort of our niche covered now, or we have this geographic area covered. Now we need this large amount of money to go nationwide or to go international or to launch our next huge product, right? And those series are typically led by multiple VC firms, not just one, because they tend to range from anywhere in the multiple millions of dollars to tens of millions of dollars. And that's where your company is sort of getting out of startup mode a little bit and being more established and more stable. A Series B typically is where you really have developed the business in a way where it'll fail if you really mess up. So growth starts to slow a little bit, but the business is maturing, and you sort of know what you're doing at that point. You're not just inventing and trying things out. You're pretty dominant at that point. And don't be let's say, puzzled or too worried about what a Series A versus a Series B or C, D, E, F is, it's just names for different rounds of financing. That's it. There's nothing really special in a Series A versus a Series B. It's indicative of where the startup is because typically the next round will be at a higher valuation than the previous one, but it doesn't always happen. And if the valuation goes down in the next round, then nobody's happy. And that's where things really start messing up. So when you raise funding or you go fundraising, first remember to always raise the least amount of money possible to achieve the goal that you want and know the type of funding that you want to go after. And just to put a bow on it, if you want to connect with me or my team, this is how. This is my full name. This is my Instagram account. You can feel free to add me, follow me anytime. Reach out through there through DM, or I'm pretty active on LinkedIn too. So my LinkedIn is the same as my Instagram, or you can just type my name and you'll find me there. On the company side, this is our company account. If anyone is thinking of studying in the US in the future, hit us up. We'll help you find housing. We'll be launching our new product pretty soon in the next 6 to 8 weeks. So that's going to be exciting. If you want to drop us an email, you have any questions of how it works, if you want to back us, support us, stay in touch, whatever, be on our email list. That's our email, support@hubsinternational.com. And if you want to also keep up with us on LinkedIn to meet our team, know about new feature launches in our fundraising journey too, this is our LinkedIn. And with that, I'll take any questions if you have any. If not, that will be it for my session. So let's check on the chat here if we have anything at all. Okay. All right. So we have one question from Anupam, and does the non-dilutive funding affect the valuation? No, is the short answer. Non-dilutive funding is sort of the best thing you can do for your startup. And a lot of times the non-dilutive funding doesn't require a previous valuation because it's people who want to back the company or that it's something or a grant that you've won from somewhere. So no, typically non-dilutive funding does not affect your company valuation. Just make sure that you use that funding to increase the value of your company. All right, next I see normally the startups which are started for a social cause take time to become sustainable and don't have profit immediately. Due to this, many times investors don't invest in such ideas. So what strategy can be applied in such cases for fundraising? So this is a question from Raul from eCell. I mentioned in the presentation that you don't necessarily have to be profitable. You do have to show a path to profitability, showing investors that, yeah, we'll be profitable in 3 years or in 5 years if we do this, or we can be profitable today if we just start charging customers this much and they're willing to pay for it. So your story, your team, and that's very important, showing that your team has experience and can deliver and execute on the promises that you make. That is going to take you maybe halfway to securing investment. And the next is, and the way you show that is through traction. And traction can be anything you really decide or that applies to your specific startup. It can be revenue, it can be user growth, it can be reduced churn, it can be anything. But as long as you show that you're achieving what you set out to achieve, in investors, and that there is an economic benefit to it, of course, investors will be jumping on board, right? Fundraising is hard, but if you have a good story, it makes your life that much easier. And then we have, is there any dependency of non-dilutive funding and dilutive funding on each other? Typically, no. Typically, they're very independent and they're structured very differently. Again, non-dilutive is typically someone giving out money for something to be done, but they don't need or even want an economic return or benefit from that money being given. But dilutive funding is the opposite. Someone gives you money with the condition that they're getting it back in more. So that's the main difference. So they go completely separate. And you know what's funny? Someone or whoever, an investor that has given you, that you've raised money from in dilutive funding, right, will always prefer that you take a non-dilutive form of funding next if it's compared to a dilutive form of funding. If everything were equal, right? So sometimes they come with expertise, with etc., but they will always want you to get the free money because it's more money on the company's account, but they don't get diluted themselves too. So whenever you acquire more dilutive funding, everybody who has invested before or own stocks get diluted, the investors included. So that's why they will always prefer you to take non-dilutive funding anyway. Um, so no, in short, they're very independent of each other. Next, uh, let's see. The path to profitability requires financial backing too, or does it work on faith and other specific revenue based on calculations? So the path to profitability will be your revenue forecast, right? So or P&L forecast, profit and loss forecast. So typically, what you have, or when investors like to see is, and it's pretty cliche, it's called a hockey stick growth curve, where it's sort of low in the beginning but grows fast, right? So kind of like the shape of a hockey stick that they play in Canada. So those will be your own projections. You have to show them throughout time how the startup will make money or will make more money than it spends, right? And when you expect to hit profitability, and also how, right? So we can say by including this feature or by monetizing that. A lot of companies don't have any monetization. Let's say Facebook at first, they were just growing like crazy, and they got a lot of funding, but they were making no money. But they knew that they had a path to profitability because if they had a lot of users and they started selling ads, then they would become profitable. So that's the sort of path you want to outline for yourself, for your startup, and your future investors. Next, I have, is it a good idea to raise funds from financial institutions or from individual investors? Advantage, disadvantage. So the advantage of first of all, I'll backtrack. You have to understand that financial institutions are run by individuals. So at the end of the day, it's not that much different. Now, the advantage of an individual is typically they will be more flexible in the terms that they offer you when they offer you an investment. But financial institutions sort of have a way to do things that, and they can't really, a lot of times due to either reputation or their partners or the way they operate, they can't give you, let's say, preference or terms that are completely more favorable to you than another company that they're investing in, right? Because that discredits them too. So I think one of the main advantages is for individuals, there would be a lot more flexibility. You can negotiate a bit better, and that also comes from their lack of let's say expertise too sometimes. But the good thing about financial institutions is for larger rounds of funding, typically they'll be able to lead the investment round. So they not only invest themselves, but they acquire investment from other financial institutions, and you only communicate with them. So they lead the round basically and get compensated for that too. So for large investments or investments that don't matter, that nobody's going to keep track of, financial institutions are good for flexibility on terms individual investors tend to be better in my experience. Next question, and thank you for all the questions, people. This is a lot of fun. And also for the panels, well, the moderators, check me on time if I'm going over time, or I'm not sure how much time I have left in this session. It's like 11 p.m. here, so um, any suggestions that might help so that we have a good chance at good raise of funds from venture capitalists, but also not have the high risk of being removed from our own company due to low amounts of initial investment and getting diluted as compared to them. So there's sort of I should say, a science or an art to fundraising where you have to raise what you need to grow, right? But not too much so you feel that you don't own the company anymore, right? So there's a fine line in between them. And also, the best way to not be kicked out of your company is just to do your job. Like if you raised money from an investor as, let's say, as a CEO, your chief executive officer, you have to execute the plan that you presented to them or a better one. But if you're not doing your job, it sort of makes sense and it's a little fair that they kick you out. Now, there are other reasons where, maybe there's tension at the company or you're pivoting and they don't agree with what you're doing, or they can just not like you or want to, just acquire your company, but you didn't want to, so they do what's called a hostile takeover, where they buy shares from other smaller investors to increase their share in the company and have majority voting shares and then kick you out. But typically, if you do your job, it means that everybody's equity is rising in value at the same pace. So there would be no issue with kicking you out because if you're doing a good job, a great job, it would be more expensive to replace you by someone than to just keep you around. So you should be good if you're executing as a chief executive officer. All right. I think that was it for the questions. Ooh, another one. Let's see. What's the deciding factor other than the money that helped you choose to have a investor VC on board? So apart from money, domain expertise is a huge one in strategic partnerships. So investors typically have a portfolio of companies. They don't invest in just one. They have 20, 30, 40, 50 companies. And maybe some of them can interact with yours and you both grow. Or also with domain expertise, if an investor has invested in companies that are similar to yours, there are some people that they will know that will be able to ease your way to success, basically. So those are two main considerations. It's domain expertise. Who is this person? What do they know? What have they done? And a lot of investors are previous entrepreneurs who had a good exit and they become an investor. So if someone was in the housing business before, right, and wants to give me $500,000, I might choose them over someone who was in medical devices and wants to give me $600,000 because the difference in the investment amount, $100,000, is worth less than the potential growth that I'll have from this person's expertise, even if they're giving less money, no, or investing less money. So those two things, please keep in mind.
Thank you so
Okay.
much, sir. I guess that's all the time we have. That was a very good session. It was very informative. Thank you so much. And if my co-host will join me, we can go ahead with the event.
Okay, so if I'm audible,
Yeah, you're audible. Let's go ahead.
okay, okay. So yeah, thank you so much, sir. It was an amazing experience listening to you. And yeah, of course, from starting with the pitch competition in BA in 2019 to working at such an amazing idea.
Okay. I guess my co-host is having some issues. So why don't I take you guys forward? Let's not hit any breaks. So I thank you once again, sir, for this wonderful session on the secrets of fundraising in a startup. So thankfully to Mr. Carl, I know how to fund my startup idea now. So as I was thinking, would my financials and graph be good enough, for investors to accept my proposal? What do you think, Anamika? Are my graphs and financials enough? Do you think they'll go for
Well,
it?
I don't think so. I think those are the bare minimum steps that you would need. And don't you want to like blow away your investors from your presentation skills and your effectiveness?
But how do I learn that? How can I master the skill of effectiveness?
Well, luckily for you, we have Mr. Parag Satpute taking the next session to explain the 7 habits of a highly effective person with effective investors.
Mr. Satpute, that's amazing. In his career of over 20 years, Mr. Parag has built a reputation for his ability to draw strategic insights and adaptability in
Parag, are
dynamic
you with us
situations.
to say
In
a few
2000,
words?
can we have our ESL head now?
Okay, so till we have our heads coming up, audience, how was your experience? Please comment down your views on the session. I'm sure you must have gained a lot of knowledge in this field, and the session was really amazing. I can say that myself.
So Anamika, what do you say we summarize Sir's session for the audience so that they can revisit the points?
Yeah, okay, so for all who might have got disconnected from the session or anything, let us just summarize the session again.
Okay, I
How
guess
knowing about hugs
easier.
is really relieving, and a lot of people see fundraising as glamorous, like he said, and the more the better, etc., etc. And the first and his top secret basically was if you're fundraising too much, you kind of don't know how to manage them. You eventually reduce your share in the company by doing that. So, and he also said like the time taking an idea, creating a product, and the rest of the procedure for all that time, it may take years, nearly 10 years. So for that time, we need people who perform R&D during the time. So that's of course so true that everyone returns, I mean, sorry, expects something in return of the money. So we need people who work for us, who trust in the company. And yeah, depth is of course interesting. In his words, if I say it can be good or bad. Okay, thank you so much, sir, for coming here and for giving us your knowledge, for sharing with us. Thank you so much for your presence, sir.
So why don't I summarize the types of capital for all of you? So according to Sir, the types of capital are non-dilutive funding. Non-dilutive fundings are those funds which don't have an impact on your percentage of shares that you have. It's best, but a bit hard to get. Then you have dilutive funding, which is the most common, which reduces your percentage of shares, and profits also get diluted. It's worth it if you hit your goals, but don't dilute your shares too often. Then, of course, the third one is debt. It's risky, and you have to make payments in this mode of capital. And as Anamika said, 18 months is a safe period of time for which you should have capital for. Then, of course, in under non-dilutive funds, you have grants, scholarships, donations, and in dilutive, you have angel investors, venture capitalists, private equity, crowdfunding. Now, why don't I talk to you about the fundraising methods? You have crowdfunding, you have angel investment, you have venture capitalists. Now, the phases of fundraisings are friends and family, which is the first step, which is a very small amount, but it gets you started. Then you have the angel investors. Then you have the pre-seed, that is bridging the gap between your angel investing and your seed investing, which you show to your venture capitalists. It's called bridge financing. Then you have the seed part, and then you have Series A to sell. I hope we have covered mostly everything that we have. Now I would like to call our ESL Vice Head, Aryan Varshnaya, for the vote of thanks. Hello, Aryan. Can you please come online? Great, great.
Hey guys,
So, hi guys. Hi.
so I hope everybody really enjoyed the previous session because it contained a lot of deep parts of fundraising, deep part, because Mr. Carl, he's very much experienced and he's really his financial advisor is Tony Mars, who is a multi-million-dollar owner right now. So thank you, sir, for the wonderful session on the speaker to fundraising in a startup. I'm sure that the participants might have got an idea about it. We thank you once again for your valuable time. We hope to see you again for the future events organized by ESL VIT Bhopal University. We really do feel a connection because our ideas and your methodology feel a little bit same. So I hope everybody enjoys all the next events and continues. Anamika and Mohajit, you can take over.
So since we have time, Aryan, could you just come online and ask if I can ask a few questions about ESL, how it started, how it's going? Is that okay?
Surely, please.
Great. So, how exactly did you and Rajnandini start ESL? Like, how did the idea get to you?
So me and Rajnandini, we were the first people to come up with an idea of an ESL. It was like we both had aspired to be entrepreneurs one day, and we had been really good friends. So
Mhm.
we were like trying to search for resources to to start a startup, like how to bring up our idea, how to see if it is feasible, how to contact anybody. But only thing we could find was either a $200 course on Google or a
Mhm.
YouTube video telling how to be a millionaire in 1 year.
Yeah.
So I think that those both didn't feel feasible to us. So what we thought is, why not create a type of community?
Okay, I guess everyone's having poor connection. Okay, we have Rajnandini
Started
along with
ESL.
us. Okay. So we have our ESL head with us too. So, Aryan, where do you see ESL going in the next few years? Like, what do you think is the goal?
So from in just 1 year, we have our current registrations have reached 1,000. So we are expecting in the next events to go though we have many international participants in this event, we are expecting to expand to a much more level. We have created Telegram, Discord, WhatsApp groups for
Mhm.
a lot of people to come together. We came on the run the world on with the help of ES startups. This platform allowed us to be approachable from any platform anywhere, and I do see that in next 5 years, ESL, though will not be there, will be an alumni, but I do
Mhm.
feel in the next 5 years, ESL will be hosting the biggest events in India and become the biggest community.
That's a great goal. I'm sure you'll achieve it. So, what about this event though? Like, what inspired you to have the E Summit? Have an international audience.
So like e-summit is, you can say, a collaboration of
Mhm.
multiple speakers and multiple constituting multiple topics and everything. So what we thought is, like, we have two speaker webinars in one monthly, twice or thrice. So why we thought, like, why not integrate like all aspects of a startup and
Mhm.
bring it in one event. That's why we created the e-summit of 2 days, where every speaker has a different agenda covering a different type of topic they want. That is why we started the e-summit, and we'll have that once every year, because this type of event deserves a time cap. Every speaker has their own precious value, and like that is why, like, every person, though they will be interested in different type of event, can join any event at any particular time and take any aspect of knowledge they want.
That's such a great idea. I'm sure the summit is already going as a success, as we have already around 93 participants as of now. So that's great. And who are you most excited for, and which speaker are you looking forward to?
Actually, I'm nearly excited for, like, every speaker. I'm really excited for every speaker. But our next speaker, Mr. Parag Sarpute,
Yeah.
he will be coming. He will be coming. He's the managing director of Bridgestone. It is now a household name. Most of the your family cars are having those tires. So
Yeah.
how he managed that 50 crore company, along with his personal life, and like how he started, how he handled that such a big company together. That is what I am really excited about, because even though I tried to start, I've been starting in ventures, I've been performing my ideas, but I always never understood is how to manage the work and the telling us his ideas and everything about it.
I'm looking forward to the session too. So, do you think you'll be? So, what do you think about the whole case study competition is about? Why don't you give a preview to our participants?
Okay, so like, most of you people would know that even before an business starts, even before a startup starts, you need to calculate every small bit of aspect, that how will that startup work, how will that startup actually function, will that startup be feasible, will it be profitable. So that a big case study is what allows it. Case study does not include only the analytics, only the statistics. It includes the smallest parts, from being the smallest labor to being the salary of a president, to being the cost of even a small bolt. You have to calculate everything. So that is what case study allows you. And also there, it also allows you to gain the attraction of investors, because some investors do see the business case study, and also it allows you to win a lot of competitions like ZS and all. So these competitions allow you to gain experience. So that is what I think the business case study is about.
Oh, that's great. I'm sure many people are looking forward to it. So we have a question in the chat for you, Aryan. Are you also working on a startup currently, aiming to scale it to the world? Are you currently working on any startup? Guys, you can ask any question in
Yes,
the
I
chat
am
box.
working. Please. I'm actually working on a startup, though I won't be revealing much about it. It's still in the prototype phase, but I'm working on my own idea. And it's something, it's digital, because you can say, type of a nerd. I'll stay everything on the digital phase. And it's something based on a new website coming up. Surely, if possible, it will be funded, incubated, and done properly, handled by ESEL, if in future it happens. So I'll be looking forward to it.
That's really exciting, Aryan, I must say.
We have another question. How did you convince your parents, as it's a bit unorthodox, to work on startups? Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah.
That's a very good question. And first of all, I started by not telling them. That's how an every entrepreneur starts. But after a little bit time, though they as every parent wants security, they pressured me for working upon for a job. Like working upon my coding skills, my projects. Like they wanted me to work for Google, Amazon, and everything, because obviously they want security from me. They do not know if the startup will always succeed or not. So what I did is I promised them. I made up to them that I'll focus on the aspect of job and everything. I'll work upon it. But I surely do want to work on my idea. I surely think that there is future to it. And as I have studied the market, I did my case studies, I did my research. Always start with your research. Believe me, always start with your research. Because if you create a product which nobody wants, if you create something which nobody wants, it will fail for sure. Create a market for it, find a market for it, great. So that is what I told my parents that I think I'll be able to sustain it in future. So and that is why I'm waiting for Parag Satpute sir's webinar.
Mhm.
Divide my work life balance. I'll divide how much time I want to dedicate to this and how much time I dedicate to this. So that
Mhm.
is how I think that I convinced them.
That's a really great idea. How to convince them. So I had a question. Many people hit over some, like every computer, every engineer, or many people just want to do have a startup of their own. So
Yeah.
how exact, and they just hit ideas, but not most of them are very feasible and reliant. So how do you think they should get over that slump? Like how do they get to that good idea since you've already hit it?
See, the first thing is that you would have heard the quote, only 4% startups succeed.
Hmm.
You would have known about that. The thing about a startup is that not always our idea is going to succeed.
Hmm.
There are two types of people in this world. There are two types of people. One will be they are really good marketers and they can promote any type of product. And the second will be they are really good product but they are not able to market. So there may be chances that if they are standing alone, there might be chances that the startup might fail. Okay, so just keep on working to the product. If you believe once in the product, if you just believe once, I'm just keeping on saying product. If you believe in the startup, it can be about anything. And it can be about anything. If you do believe in the startup, then keep on working at it. But always, the case. Just see in the case study competition where
Hmm.
what you know. Jagesh Golwala will be telling you. He'll be telling you all that how to see that if your startup is going to succeed in the future, because a startup in your mind will succeed because yes, no, yes, that thing will work. I know, but you need to see that if it will work or not. So
Correct.
there are a lot of different areas. That is why we are having this e-summit. There will be a lot of different areas. May it be communication, may it be life, may it be business case study, and our first webinar may it be fundraising, the most important part because you need money for any startup.
Of course.
So I do believe that if one fails, then do not just stop. Okay, research more. Find up a new idea. If you have a brain seed. If you have one brain seed, work on that and bring up that, work upon that, and bring that to reality.
Hmm. That's a great way to get over that slump. I'm sure many people over here would take that advice. So has like how has it been? Has it been stressful? Being in a college and also working part time. At getting your startup up. How stressful has it been?
Taking case of the college, college, not our college. My friend time and our friends from different colleges. They are like कि दिन के 5 assignment मिलते हैं. And
Hmm.
I understand that it takes a lot of stress on you. So it's
Hmm.
just if you want to put up a particular amount of time, you will get up the whole night and you will work on it. And I know because I have done that whole day. I was doing the college assignments and in the night time I have worked upon my idea sleep, though it is not healthy. Okay, but if it's your passion, then you will surely work upon it. It will be something like that. It's been really stressful.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Aryan, because I know it's very exhausting at the end of the day. You feel like, why am I struggling so much? I can simply go in the straight way like everyone does. But you also feel some kind of satisfaction at the end of the day when you complete the tasks which you assign to yourself in the morning. So yeah, it is a difficult path, like the road not taken, if you remember the poem. So yeah, it is a path where no one goes. There are no footprints. But although we have a footprints nowadays, many people are pursuing that field also. They are using this method also to succeed in their career. But
Hmm.
still, it's a difficult one. It's a rare one. It's of course quite difficult to convince the society, our parents, to make them trust us that yeah, we can do something. And like, how do you trust the people initially? Like, I was thinking like it's very difficult for me to trust the people that yeah, they will work on my product or they will work on my idea. How do you choose the people, or how do you find out that yeah, okay, these people are fine for my startup and they will not betray me or like steal away my idea or do anything or will work
Hmm.
sincerely
Correct.
on the idea?
So I guess we'll have to wait for either Rajnandini or Aryan. Do we have Aryan again? That's great. Aryan, I guess we have two more questions for you.
Really sorry.
No issue.
Yep.
So the first one is, I think at first building a successful startup should not be the aim. Our aim should be solving a real life problem and will be useful to people. What's your view on this?
I surely do believe I have been in startups focused on people. I have been in startups who create communities. I have worked for startup as a, I'm in third year. I have finished third year.
Mhm.
So internship has been a really important part of our life. So I have been in 2 to 3 different startups who have worked for different areas. So I think, every startup, like nearly every startup work will be a solid everyday work. Hello.
Yeah, you're audible. You're audible.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I do believe that every startup does start with creating a solution for a type of a problem, because that is why people are going to take it. That is why people are going to use it, because it would ease up a part of their life. I surely do believe that, because and if you are doing it for that cause, if you are trying to create a solution for a problem, or a real life problem, and helping people, then that is the best aspect of a startup. Then that should be your first aim. That should be your first motto. And but second thing you should always see is the sustainability of a startup. You should see that will it be working in the future? Will it be going up in the future anywhere? Because a community which does not have a foundation
Mhm.
will never sustain and creating a startup based on the view for the people. Just take a scenario that you are able to sustain.
So, Aryan, as you mentioned that you've worked in a lot of startups, you've interned over there. What exactly
Yeah.
do you think, they were issues they were facing at the initial stage? Like, if you can just share it with our audience.
So first, just give me a second.
Sure.
So the first thing. First thing, the thing they face is in a startup is that due to the instability of a startup, every area they work, they think that everything is. Just give me a second. I'll be back in. I'll be back in a second.
Till then, can we have our ESL head, Raj Nandini, please? If she can just come online, we can ask her a few questions too. Guys, we'll be starting with Mr. Parag Satpute's session at 12:15. Okay, I guess we are having a lot of technical problems. It's a new base. So if we can just wait for 2 minutes. I'm so sorry guys. Let's just wait for 2 minutes and then we'll go ahead with it. Okay. I guess my Anamika, are you there?
Yeah, am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible. So I guess we have 15 minutes and we are waiting for Raj Nandini. So
Yeah, till then we can interact more with the audience. So
definitely.
let's go up to the chats. Let's scroll up. So we have
So I
many attendees here.
saw
Yeah.
I saw a comment over here by someone. Let me just pull that out. So we had a comment by Nishchal Nayak from Xflow. and he was looking for a technical. Could you just talk about like explore in the comments, please, Nishchal, so that our audience gets a good idea about it.
Yeah, sure. Like, okay, and yeah, surely Pankaj, we are also quite eager to learn and hear from Mr. Parag Satpute.
So till our ESL head joins, how has your journey been till now, Anamika? Like in ESL?
Okay, so my journey in ESL started this year only because we are, of course, the first year students. So it has been very few months till now. But yeah, I've had an amazing experience with the cell, exploring so many different events. And I've been handling the social media. And I'm in the social media team of the ESL. I interviewed for technical team also, but I couldn't make it there. So I just joined this after I was selected, and it has been a really rewarding experience. Before that, I was like, it's okay, I just know how to have my account on social media and post. But now I understand a bit, like, yeah, the crowd is more at this time, and these are the ways in which we engage the crowd. So yeah, that's all about my experience regarding social media. Apart from that, I think I've got a lot of opportunities to learn from all the speakers that we've had till today. And before this, we also had an amazing session on stock markets and shares, etc. Uh, and I'm really proud to say that it was taken by my father only, and it was quite informative. We received a lot of positive reviews from the audience side. And apart from that, also uh, we have, of course, a lot of amazing speakers here today also. And I'm really glad to say that our outreach team is working really well, and they have invited such knowledgeable and what I say, like, highly highly achieving people here in this
Mhm.
session with us. So I'm really thankful to the team that we got an opportunity to interact with so many amazing minds of across the world. So
I'm
yeah,
sure.
and Sakalia is saying something else. What do you think ECL is? How do you think ECL is different from other clubs, guys? As you are the members, so how do you feel about it? So if I was to answer this, then I will say ECL is very much different. Firstly, it's not typical chapter or a club which is focused on making money from the students, which are the members of that particular club, etc. They are not increasing their reach through them or selling their product here. It's a non-profit organization. We are working basically for the betterment of the students, for the betterment of the young budding minds who are interested in having their own startups or building their own startups in future. And I see several people following me here. So thank you so much, guys, that if you find me innovative enough or worthy enough for your follows and likes, so thank you so much. I would like to invite you all for this, for grabbing the mic. I would like to hear something from you. If any one of you volunteers to speak something, to talk to us
Okay.
live here, we'd
I
love
guess
that.
we should start off like with Mr. Parag Satpute. He's here. So why don't I introduce you guys to him? So Mr. Parag Satpute assumed the role of managing director of Bridgestone India in November 2017. Oh, sir is here. Hello, sir.
Hello,
So
sir.
are we audible?
Seems like not really connected to him
Hi
right now.
guys, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes,
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 sir.
sir. You're audible. You're audible.
But I can't
Yes, sir,
hear
you are.
you, so I need to
Okay.
figure out a way. Up, just
Guys,
mute,
can you have the clapping
manage the
emoji?
mic. You can hear me?
Yeah, yeah, we can
Yes,
hear
sir.
you.
Okay, but I can't hear you, so I wonder how I can set that right.
Our technical team help out a bit.
Yeah, I think they'll surely sort the issue.
Do you mind if I get my IT guys online?
Sure, no issues. We can wait.
Yes.
Yeah.
Guys, come on, show some enthusiasm in the comment section.
Yeah, and I hope you're not leaving because we are just starting with the next session. And I can also see that we have with us the CEO of King Aqua, Mr. Pankaj, with us since quite a long time. So welcome to the session, sir. And we also invite Mr. Parag on behalf of you.
So you're not audible.
Yeah.
No, sir, your voice is not audible. Uh, sir, can you check if your computer has the mic enabled from the settings in the Chrome browser? In that, it should be in the top right corner, just next to the star.
So why don't you leave and join again? You know, you can change the audio settings once you leave.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We'll be starting very shortly, guys. Just give us 2 minutes.
Yeah, so after 2 minutes, we'll have Mr. Parag Satpathy back with us. And
I'm sure
if
you're
I,
all very excited. I can see that in the
yeah.
comment section.
And may I know all of your views that how does it feel to interact with, so knowledgeable personalities, such dynamic personalities, and we have on board. Uh, yeah, so sorry,
Great,
Zero.
sir is back.
So I can hear you now. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we
Yes,
can hear you. It's perfect, sir.
Perfect.
Great.
And you can see me as well.
Yeah.
yeah. So welcome to the session, sir.
Thank you.
So shall we start with the session?
Indeed.
Let's
Am I
just.
already in the main room, or are you going to put me now into the
No, you're
main?
in the main room, sir. I guess
Oh,
everyone can see you.
okay. Good, 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 good. Happy to be here. Good afternoon, everyone. How many people are attending this event?
Right now,
79.
78.
70.
79. 79. 9.
79. Okay. Good, good, good. And all students of your college, what are they
No,
studying?
sir. We have international students. We have other students from other colleges. It's a varied audience.
Okay, good, good. Happy to be here. Pleasure to be with you guys today. I had sent across a presentation which I'm going to use for my talk. Do you have that? Will you be able to display that?
I don't think
Yes,
we
sir.
have that.
I'm just gonna
Okay, do
share
we
my
have that?
screen.
Okay, okay, great.
Yes, yes. I'll share my screen.
Okay, go ahead.
Good. Yeah, I can see that screen. It's not a very complex presentation. It's just meant to guide our thoughts. So I'm ready to get started. I have a talk for about 20-25 minutes, depending upon how we go. And then I'm very happy to take any questions from your audience, right? So is there a possibility to do that?
Yeah,
Yeah, sure.
sir, you can see in the comment section over there if it's visible to you.
I,
Yeah, okay. If you want, we'll note down the questions and ask all of them
that would
together.
be perfect,
That's okay.
actually. That would be perfect.
Great. So we'll do it. So we'll hand over the session to you now, sir. We'll sign off for now. Great.
All right. Okay.
Great. Okay. Best of luck, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. So, once again, good afternoon, everyone. First of all, thank you very much for inviting me to this session. I truly enjoy interacting with young minds like yours. Um, it's been quite some years since I moved on from college, and I fondly remember those energetic and enthusiastic days. So, by coming and participating in sessions like this, it's an opportunity to relive some of those memories. It's a pity, of course, that we can't do this in person. It's really just another experience to be in a room full of young, bright minds like you, and to really sense the energy in the room. But we are passing through very tough times. The whole world is passing through a very tough time. And actually, it's quite impressive how we have managed to transition to this remote way of working. Right? So, any which way, I'm happy to be here today. I'm happy to be able to contribute to your session. As you can see from your screen, the topic I've chosen to talk about is 7 habits of an effective person. Or more than habits, I would say traits, behaviors of what it needs to be successful in today's corporate world. This is what I've chosen to talk about. And I'm going to lean heavily on my own experience because I'm no academician, I'm not a professor, so I'm not a theoretical expert on this topic. But having worked in the industry for more than 22 years now, and having worked in multiple companies, multiple countries, I can call upon some of my experience and try to share what has worked for me and what has not. Before I get started, a short introduction about myself. I was born in India, but I grew up in 2 countries in Africa, in East Africa. And I remember those days very, very fondly because it was a completely different situation than what existed in India at that time. So that's one thing which has influenced my view on life, and I believe it has made me who I am. Secondly, very importantly, I started living independently at the age of 14. My parents continued to live in Africa for my dad's career, but the education there was not that great, so I had to move back to India. And me and my sister, my younger sister actually, started living independently when I was 14 and she was 12. And as you can imagine, it made us self-reliant, Atmanirbhar, at a very young age. And I think that has also defined my path in life and my personality to a large extent. The third thing, which has a big influence, is I am more like a nomad. I have lived in 6 countries in the world. I already mentioned Africa. It was Uganda and Kenya when I was growing up. Then it was India during my college days and when I started my career. And then I had the good fortune of moving to Europe. So I lived in UK, in Germany, and in Sweden. And I've really, really enjoyed this experience of immersing myself in very varied cultures. And that has helped me develop as a person. Related to that, I think as a personality, I really enjoy meeting new people. So I have traveled. I chose to be in the sales and marketing career when I started off. So I have traveled multiple countries in the world, and I always really enjoyed my interactions with people from the different cultures. And therefore, I enjoy such events, coming and meeting all of you and listening to you, interacting with you gives me a lot of energy. And the final thing which I like to mention in my introduction is I have a very energetic, enthusiastic wife who has been my constant companion in this journey. We got married very early. I got married when I was 22. And it was a love marriage. So she has been my companion in this. And we have 2 sons who are more like our friends today. So my older boy is 22 and my younger son is 18. And it's great to have a teenage or young men who can be your friends. So this is me. This is an introduction. Now I'll switch to the topic at hand. Like I said, what I'm going to do in the next 15-20 minutes is lean on my experience, mainly my professional experience, because I presume that is what you are interested in. Reflect on what worked for me, reflect on where I had my failures. And from all those reflections, I've brought forth a few key themes or behaviors or attitudes, which I believe are very important to be successful in today's corporate world. And I presume that will be of interest to all of you as you guys are starting on your, you're just finishing off your education and starting on your professional journey. And that's why I'm going to use these 7 slides that I have. If I can move on to the first slide, please, the one who's controlling. So, yep, very good. So like you can read on your screen, what I truly believe is no one really cares how much you know until they know how much you care. Let me explain what I mean by this. During our education system, through schooling, through junior college, and now through doing your undergrad or postgrad studies, there is a very, very heavy emphasis on knowledge, right? We choose the field of our interest and we try to become experts in that field. And the feeling is that if I can master this subject, then I will be successful in my career. It is very important to become an expert in your subject. If you're doing engineering or if you're doing finance or whatever, it is very important, but it is not enough. It is not sufficient, because your functional skills, a lot of people will have that. What sets people apart and what defines your career path, I have found, is how you can engage and interact with other people in the workplace. Because no matter what profession you choose to be in, you will need to work with other people. So empathy, in my eyes, is a very, very important quality, is a very, very important trait that each and every individual must have, must develop. And I like to mention this right up front, because this is not something which is formally ingrained in us in our education system. In fact, our education system teaches us to be more loners. It teaches us to be very competitive, because we are always graded against each other. We are ranked, and even moving into good colleges and all, it's a very, very competitive environment. So it is sometimes difficult to make the switch when you come into industry, where it's not so much about competition as it is about learning to work and learning to understand the people you're working with. So I would like to emphasize that it's very important. You keep this in mind. Your functional knowledge will take you only so far if you want to make significant progress in your journey, in your professional careers, whether you run your own business or whether you work for another corporate. Understanding what makes your team tick will become a very, very important criteria. Related to that, or connected to that, I would say, is your value system. When you're looking for businesses to start, when you're looking for corporates to join, you really check out their financials, I'm sure. You check out the career opportunities, I'm sure. You check out what kind of managers are there, all very important. I'm sure people have talked about it. What I also encourage you to do is to really understand the value system of that company that you're going to join. Really understand the value system of people you're going to work together with, if it is an own business, and see how that connects to your own value system. Because if there is a good fit between the value systems of the individual and the business, then it is more likely to be a sustainable, long-term, and a successful relationship. If there is not a value fit, if there is a disconnect between the values, then despite all other things being right, it is not likely to be a very long journey. And I've seen that from my own experience. So in my first job, I was working with a company which was very good, a multinational. But I realized a few months into the company that it was a very hyper competitive environment. And it was also a very high pressure environment where routinely managers used to shout at the employees. Routinely, I have seen people crying. And I realized this was not the kind of person I am. So while I was doing very well professionally, I was one of the star performers, I was not happy about the job. I made the switch after 1.5 years and I joined another company called Sandvik, which incidentally was my dream company at that time. And I eventually stayed in Sandvik for 21 years. And I worked with Sandvik in India, in UK, in Germany, in Sweden, right up to the head office. And I believe one of the main reasons I had such a long and I believe a fruitful and successful career in Sandvik was because there was a very good match between the core values of Sandvik, which was about team spirit, which was about fair play, which was about integrity with my own core values. So this is something I reflected upon a lot. And whenever young people ask me, how do I find the right career path or how do I find the right company, then I encourage them to look at the value system of the company. So that was my first point. Hope you can keep some of that in mind. If we move on to the second slide, please. Right. This is another important learning that I had. And you can read what is on your screen. But what I mean by this is it's very important for all of us to be proactive, to be the one to take the first step out, to be the one to venture into the unknown. Ideally, we would like when we join a corporate that there is a nice career path defined for us, and then we focus on doing our job well, and then the company will take care of the development of the career. Yeah, that is if it is like that, it would be great. Unfortunately, I've worked for a few companies, I've seen many other companies. It is not as straightforward as that. Once again, I have seen people succeed who are not that intelligent or who are not that how would I say, have not scored that high in their grades. And I've seen people who have been absolute toppers in school not make headway in corporates. And another reason why that happens is the people who believe in taking their own destiny in their own hands are the ones who invariably are more likely to succeed. And you would say that, yeah, of course, all of us believe in taking our own destiny in our own hands. But let me give you an example of how this plays out, because it is about getting outside your comfort zone. And I'll give you an actual example I went through. So I told you I joined Sandvik when I was fairly young. It was also when the company was growing. So I had a good few years in India in Sandvik, and all things were looking well. I had got married, I had started a family, the company was growing, I was progressing well. But I felt that it was a bit stagnating, or my learning had kind of come to a stop. And I started looking for opportunities in the global organization of Sandvik. One such opportunity came across. It was a job in the UK, but it was in a part of Sandvik which was a small division, and it was a loss-making division. And most of my friends or peers at that time advised me against taking that job. They said, why would you want to leave such a nice, stable role that you have here in India, where the company is also growing, and move into the unknown in UK, where the company is small? Yeah, it is in the Sandvik group, but it's small. It's a loss-making business. Why would you want to do that? But after giving it a long and hard thought, I decided to take that risk. And I really, for the first few months, I almost thought I had made the wrong decision, because moving to a new country with a young family, completely new work culture, also the business was much tougher. But I can tell you, the 7 years that I spent in the UK and the kind of business learning that I had in that company was tremendous. That actually set me up for the rest of my life. And in fact, in the first few years, it looked like my peers in India were making more progress. But due to the fact that I learned to handle much tougher situations, I had a much wider experience, both internationally and in products. Eventually, my career started moving much faster than there. So here again, what I'd like to point out is sometimes you have to step out of your comfort zone. You have to jump into the unknown, take the risk. Take the risk, because the biggest regrets that people usually have is, I did not venture out and take this big step, and therefore my potential was stunted. So this is my second message to you. Be proactive and be prepared to step outside your comfort zone and take the risk, especially at a young age in the early stage of your career, because there is literally no downside to that. Can we move on to the third slide, please? This is a bit connecting to my first point, but I wanted to re-stress this point that, and this is a Chinese saying actually, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, you need to go together with a group. And this is more true than anything in the corporate world. No matter what kind of role you choose to do, no matter if you choose to go in manufacturing or sales or IT or business development, finance, no matter what, even if you decide to start your own business, there is very, very limited things that you can achieve or just on your own. You will need to work with a team. You will need to work with your peers. And this realization comes sometimes a bit too late for some of us. Once again, referring a bit to our education system, because most of our education system in India is individual based. It teaches you to excel on your own, to study on your own, to give exams on your own, to do projects on your own, and eventually to outcompete the people you are studying with, because there are only limited number of placements that are available, or there are only limited number of good projects that are available. And while the competitive spirit is good to have, but if that kills off your collaborative spirit, then that can be a problem in later life. And I have noticed it is especially a problem for people who have done extremely well in their academics, in their college, because you believe consciously as well as subconsciously that the way to succeed in life is by hardworking and by being super competitive. And that kind of trait sometimes can be counterproductive when you're trying to work in a team, because the team is only as good as the weakest member. So your job as a member of the team, and especially if you aspire to be a leader of the team, is to ensure that you take together all the team members and pay special attention, give extra support to those team members who might be a bit weaker than the rest or who might be struggling with what they're doing. And I cannot stress this point enough. Once again, I like to illustrate it with a practical example I've gone through, because I reach back to my time when I moved to the UK. You know, when I moved to the UK, I was very excited on one hand. I was very excited because I thought I was moving to this country, which at one time was a superpower, which had ruled over half the world. So and it is a small country. I expected to meet brilliant people, because that's what my logic told me, that if such a small country ruled over half the world, then the individuals there must be brilliant, super intelligent, super dynamic. It will be such a great pleasure to get to know such people and work with them. When I moved there, actually I was in for a disappointment, because honestly I found people there average. Yeah, in fact, more average than I had seen in India, where I was working or where I was studying in some premier institutes. And it took me some time of reflection to understand what it was. In the Western world, especially in European countries, because that's where my experience comes from, the systems and processes are very good, and people have been trained and are very happy to play their part in that system. They understand their role in that system, and they are happy to play just that part and not try to do much beyond it. But when all those parts start working, the system then delivers a superior result. Conversely, sometimes in India, we have individually brilliant people who are really good on their own, but as a group, then it does not deliver that superior result. So I believe that if we want to make progress as a country, we want to make progress as companies, then we must learn to work together in a team. And working together in a team has two aspects to it. One is, of course, making sure that you are doing what your job is, because there is an assigned job to every teammate. That's your primary responsibility. The other thing is to ensure that you can reach out and support people who you think are struggling with their roles. So this is another thing I'd like you to keep in mind. It's not enough doing your job well. It's important that you stick to your job, do it well, but at the same time, make sure that you are providing adequate support to your team. And as you become leaders, that will become an even more important trait. If we move to the next slide. And here I want to stress the importance of agility. And I would say this is something I have added on more recently. And it is actually in the last year and a half, 2 years, when we have been going through these COVID times, it has become an even more important trait. What do I mean by agility? See, the world around us is changing dramatically and is changing rapidly. I'm sure you have heard of the term VUCA, which is volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. Yeah, I mean, the world was becoming VUCA even before COVID, and actually, COVID has made it hyper VUCA. And I can firsthand tell you how dramatically the situation for businesses is changing on the ground even today. If you had asked me 1 week ago, 1.5 weeks ago, the primary focus of me and my team was try and keep our employees safe. We were all struggling. We had a lot of people who were suffering with COVID or their families were suffering with COVID. Hospital beds were not available. Oxygen was in short supply. You all know that. You have been reading the news. And as a company leadership, we were trying to support our teammates. But just 10 days down today, all that has quietened down. And now, actually, we are seeing that the business is opening up. So the major concern now is going to be how do we ramp up our operations? So this change in mindset from a very, conservative, safety-minded approach that we had 10 days ago to now we have to go all out and try and ramp up our production, and to ramp up a huge tire manufacturing plant that we run where we employ close to 3,000 people is a task in itself. And this kind of volatile changes are happening in the business environment very, very regularly. And those individuals and those companies who can anticipate these changes and are quick to shift gears and start acting on those are the ones which will be successful. Unfortunately, many who are not able to be so agile will be run out of business. And you guys are starting your career, or you will start your career either this year or next year in a period when the volatility will be at its highest. So agility will be very, very important for all of you. So I once again stress the importance of having a mindset which is ready to switch gears and which is always tuned to anticipate what is coming in the market. Moving on to the next slide. Thank you. Here I want to stress the importance of resilience. See, one thing is sure in life for all of us, that it is not going to be a smooth path all the time. No matter how well educated you are, no matter how brilliant, intelligent you are, no matter how well supported you are through your family or friends, there will be ups and downs. Everyone will face some form of failure in life. It could be big failures, it could be small failures, it could be disappointments. Me personally also, I've had situations where things did not work out as I had planned. One big example was when I got my first huge promotion and I moved from Germany into Sweden. I went from heading up a team of about 40 people into a position as a global president where I had 2,000 people working for me. I was super excited. I was only 38 years old at that time. I was super excited. I was also very happy that the company had entrusted me with such a important responsibility, and I was fully committed to make a significant impact. So basically, I started out working 12, 16 hours a day and trying to change everything overnight. And what happened was that, I flew ahead and the rest of the team were left quite some distance behind. And eventually it got to a point where my boss had to call me into the office and say, hey, Parag, if this does not stop, you are not being able to take your team with you. If this does not stop, I'm going to have to fire you. So it was such a discussion that we had. Now, it was very, very disappointing. I think disappointing is an understatement. I felt that I had committed a huge mistake, and it had been a big failure. That's what I felt like. And it was easy at that point to become dejected. But I think the most important thing there, and this is what I want to stress about, is you will have these failures. Everyone will have these failures, some small, some big. It's not about avoiding those failures. It's about how you bounce back from those failures. Because the successful people are able to come back faster, are able to come back with appropriate learnings from the situation, and are able to modify their thing. First of all, accept the reasons for the failure and not try to deflect that blame to others, but to accept. Because only when you accept, then you say that, okay, here is how I'm going to overcome it. So this ability to introspect, to really understand what led to the failure, and then to bounce back and start modifying your actions, your behaviors, so as you do not end up in similar situations again. I think that is probably one of the most important trait that now I look in people when I'm hiring people. And that's probably the most important trait that youngsters need to develop, especially youngsters who have had a very strong academic career, because many a times you have not witnessed or you have not experienced any failures. So the first time or the second time it happens, it can be a catastrophic event. But if you go in with your mind prepared, then you have a better chance of tackling those failures. If we move on to the last slide now, I think I've covered 6 points, and I'll move on to the last one. Whoever is controlling my presentation, please could you move to the last slide? Am I audible still?
Yes, sir, you're audible, I guess. Yeah.
Okay, good. Right, there it is. Did we miss one slide? Sorry, maybe we went to, yeah, sorry. This is the second last slide, and we will take the last one after that. So, and this is before COVID, okay? This is before COVID. This is something I believe right from the beginning of my career, and actually which has helped bring me to where I am today. Change is the only constant in life. Sometimes when we have things going well for us, we believe that it should remain like that. But it's impossible for things to remain as they are, because if things remain as they are, that means they're going backwards. So change is the only constant thing in life. And the successful people, and it's not me saying it, even Charles Darwin said it, it's not people who are bright, it's not people who are fast, it's not people who are strong, it's people who are most adaptable. Those are the ones who are going to be successful. I mean, the whole origin of the species is based on that. I think it applies very, very well to your professional careers as well. So always be on the lookout for what is changing around you, because sometimes you don't even realize things are changing. And be ready to adapt yourself. It is a bit dangerous. Sometimes we feel we have invested so much in a certain thing. Let's say you have taken a certain course and you've invested a lot of time and a lot of money, and initially it has helped you in your career. But you see that technology or that course becomes redundant, then you should not hesitate to reskill yourself. Because if you keep holding on to your core competency as you have defined it, it might be that the world around you will change so much that your core competency becomes redundant. And a typical example happened in I would say the late 90s or early 2000s. People like myself who had become mechanical engineers, if we try to hold on to that as our core competency, I've studied to be a production engineer or a mechanical engineer, that's what I'm going to look for. Actually, the world at that time changed so much, and most of the opportunities to make careers, whether in your own business or in the corporate world, was in the IT or the software space. And many people made that switch and went to become software programmers. And in most cases, they did not use any of their mechanical knowledge. And some of them felt that, oh, that's been a waste of time, 4 years spent in engineering college, studied so hard. So they didn't make the switch. But I think the ones who succeeded are the ones who made that switch, who trained themselves to become good programmers, and then have gone on to make very, very strong careers in software. So that is one example. Such phase shifts are happening all the time, right? And you guys are probably more aware of what is the phase shift happening now. I think the digital revolution, data analytics is such a huge phase shift happening at the moment. My point is, throughout your professional life, there will be such phase shifts happening. The successful ones will be able to spot that and will be able to reskill themselves. So there is no point in holding on to core skills which are becoming redundant. It's very important to really jump and reskill yourself so that you can adapt to the new success mantras. That was my second last point. And coming to my last point, which probably is the most understated, because in many instances it is not seen as a business discussion, is about your health. And also when you're young, when you're in your early 20s or even till your 30s, you feel like Superman. Your body really can take a lot of abuse. You can stay up late and party, and you can get up early and go to work. You can eat whatever you want. You can drink whatever you want. It does not show on your body. But I can assure you, when you get to your late 30s and 40s, obviously the body starts to behave differently. It's very, very important for your professional career that you are physically fit. Don't for one moment underestimate the importance of physical fitness. Because in your professional career, you might have to travel a lot, you might have to work long hours, you might have to have irregular meal times. If your body is not fit enough to handle that, it will start affecting your intellectual, your professional performance. So in fact, I would say that it's very, very important to overinvest in your physical fitness if you want to do a good job professionally, no matter what your profession is. And I came to this realization a bit late, I think in the mid 30s. I came to this realization that if I don't start maintaining my body, and for that you need to exercise regularly, then I will not be able to give my 100% in my job. So since the middle of my 30s, actually, I started on a fitness journey. And each one can choose different things. I love running because of few things. One, it is the easiest sport to pick up. It can be done anywhere, as I had a job which required me to travel quite frequently. I found it was very easy to run, and it had side benefits, So when I was traveling, if I was in London, I was in Paris, or I was in any city in the world, I would definitely make it a point to get up in the morning and go for a run. And the city looks very, very different in the morning at around 6:30 when you're running around, when it's just opening up. And it helps you to understand the culture of the city. The other thing with running is that it helps me to meditate. I run without music, I run on my own, and it helps me to really get in a zone and think about some of the deeper topics that I'm grappling with at that time. So definitely, before important meetings, before important presentations, I have taken the time to go out for a run and clear my mind. But it can be different things for different people. Yeah, some people do yoga, some people run, some people go to the gym. I think anything is okay. You must enjoy doing it, and you must start doing it early on, because sometimes it gets too late and then you will be limited by what you can do. So to young people, I always say, your body and your fitness and your health is a gift to you. Please invest enough time and effort in maintaining that gift. You only realize the importance of it when you lose it. When I was a runner and all of that, and I still did not realize how important being fit is. But then I had a knee sprain, one of my ligaments of the knee sprained, and I could not run. I could not play my favorite sports of badminton. Even it was tough to go for a walk, and I realized how compromised your lifestyle can become, and it starts to affect your work, because I could not go for a walk in the shop floor and meet the people. I had to be slow when my colleagues were walking. So you only realize the importance of something when you lose it. And that's why I wanted to stress to all of you, when you are starting off in your careers and you are young and fit and healthy, that already now start investing in your health, not just to remain well, but also to ensure you have a successful professional career. Okay, so like I said, I took close to 30 minutes to run through what I believe are 7 attributes, behaviors, habits, no matter what you want to call it, that if you practice, it will help you be successful in life, especially in the corporate world. And again, I've called on all the experiences, good experiences and difficult experience that I've had, and tried to relate that to you. I'm very happy now to listen to you, to take any questions from you. So over to you guys, over to the moderators to help me find those questions and answer them if there are any.
Sure, sir. I guess we had more viewers on YouTube Live, so we have questions from there too.
Okay. Okay. So you have
So,
multiple platforms going at the moment, is it?
yeah.
Okay. Okay, good.
So the one question is, what if the idea is not product based and rather service based? A bit ambiguous, but okay.
Okay. No, no, it's a good question, and I know where they're coming from. Maybe they have heard me speak at different platforms. I think this is one of the big shifts happening, by the way, the servicification of products, if I may call it that. Let me give you an example. Earlier, companies or people used to buy copying machines, Xerox machines in the office, right? And you bought a machine for a few lakh rupees, you put it in your office, and then you used it. And when it broke down, you bought a new one. Nowadays, no one does that. Nowadays, people or the copying machine companies come to you and say, hey, we will install a machine. You don't have to pay for it upfront. We will charge you by the number of copies you make. So they have turned that copying into a service. That has happened in multiple spaces. It has happened in capital equipment, in mining equipment. Companies are saying, we don't want to buy your big expensive machines for crores of rupees. Why don't you come and put the machine here, maintain it, and we will pay you by the amount of coal we are mining. So it's cost per ton. It has happened in mobility, right? People are saying, let's not buy a car when I have a Uber. I can anytime call, and the car is anyway parked 90% of the time. So there is a huge shift happening in the world where people are going away from owning assets to just consuming the product or the service. And a lot of new business ideas are focused on that, and technology platforms are helping make it possible. So I think if you have such ideas, this is the time. I think the next 5-10 years is going to be about that.
Right, sir. There's definitely a change and shift in the ways we, have corporate structures and all. So another question is, what all things we should focus on at an initial stage, coordinating with the different types of people with the different cultures and core values. How to face such issues while aiming a startup?
While helming a startup. Okay.
Yeah, setting up a startup.
Yeah. So startup or starting your career in a corporate. I think, by the way, this entrepreneurship is very, very important. Definitely, it is important if you want to start your own business or a startup. But even in a traditional corporate job, people who are very entrepreneurial, those are the people who actually are more proactive. Those are the people who are more resilient. So entrepreneurship is valued even within corporates, right? So my advice to people who are starting off in their career, whether it's a startup or whether it is within a corporate, is to really try and gain as much diverse experience as possible. And that you can do by willing to take up projects outside your core area. That you can do by willing to take lateral job postings when you're working in a big corporate at frequent intervals. That you can do by going out of your way to meet people and understand how they do what they do in other parts of the company. And I think for a startup that becomes very, very important. So I would say be like a funnel, be very, very wide, take in as much input as you can take, and then filter it and bring it through. I think that is very, very important at an early stage in your career, whether you're starting a startup or whether you're working in a big multinational conglomerate, it doesn't matter. Please focus on that.
So guys, you have the option to grab the mic, so you can ask questions directly. So if you guys want to choose that option, just click on grab the mic, and our tech team will help you out. So are there any requests? Great. So I'll just ask the ones in the chat box for now. So what kind of activities do you think a youngster, as in a college student, should be involved in, be it academically or extracurricular activities, to have a successful career?
That's a very broad question, isn't it? That's a very broad question. If I'm to give some answer, I think it's a good balance is important. I personally believe a good balance is important. When I say good balance is you should, of course, try and keep learning and honing your skills, your functional skills. At the same time, you should also develop your interpersonal skills. So by all means, participate in extracurricular activities, be it leading cultural programs, be it sports, because again, most of the successful people I've seen are all-rounders. Very, very rarely do you see someone who's just very, very academic or someone who's just a very good sportsman. It's all-rounders, because the world is going to throw many, many different challenges at you as you grow up. You're going to have to deal with people from very different backgrounds. So important is to be able to handle all of that. So early in your career, I would say try and become a balanced person and do the activities that will make you a balanced person. So yes, focus on upgrading your skills, focus on getting further qualifications by all means, but do not overlook the social angle of it. Do not overlook the EQ angle of it, which you can develop by participating in community projects, which you can develop in being active in sports. So if you have a choice, if you have the ability, try and do all of these things and have a good time. I mean, the most important thing is you will be successful only if you're having fun doing something, right? If you're enjoying what you're doing, then there is much more likelihood that you will become good at it. If you're doing it just because you want to be successful but you don't enjoy it, then it's going to be hard work, and the mind is not trained to do hard work all the time. Then it will give up at some point. But if you're enjoying it, if you're having fun, then great. So like, again, referring to my own case, when I started my career, I had an option to get into manufacturing, I had an option to get into sales, or I had an option to go into software, because that was when software was booming. I understood very early on that my passion or where I got my energy was from interacting with people. So though I could become good at coding, probably I could, because I was good at maths and all, but I did not think that I would enjoy it. I did not fancy myself sitting in front of a computer and trying to solve a problem on my own for 8 hours a day. I saw myself going out, meeting new people, enjoying meeting new people, trying new food, traveling to different places. And that made me realize that the best career path for me at that time was sales. So though I probably would have got a higher package with the software company at that time, I chose to go with the sales company. And in hindsight, I think that was the best decision I could have taken. So similarly, I think it's important to understand yourself. What is it that you're passionate about? What is it that you enjoy doing? And make sure that you don't have to give up on that for your career.
Great, sir. I think you've employed many minds to have fun with what they do for now. So there's another question by Pankaj Dabade, who is the CEO of King Aqua. Mr. Parag, how much hours we must work in a day, or how to plan a day keeping in mind all activity?
Mr. Pankaj Dabade should not be asking my question. He is my classmate, so he knows me very well. And he is a very successful CEO in his own right, so he can answer this as good as anyone. But I would say, I mean, for the benefit of your younger viewers, I would say that I am also a strong believer in all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. So I do believe that you must enjoy, you must have fun. And again, for each one, it's a different way of having fun. Like my wife, she likes to go on treks. So she really enjoys being in the outdoors and going into the nature. Um, my older son, he's into fitness, so he likes to exercise. He puts on music and exercise. So again, to each one his own or her own. You should figure out what you enjoy. And all work and no play is also not fun. For me, I like working, of course, but I like meeting with friends. I like having a drink with my friends. I like chatting with my friends. So I do make sure I make enough time for that. So I would encourage everyone to have this knowledge about themselves and not short charge of that.
I agree. So balance is very important. Then we have Chahak Garg from VIT asking, Sir, you told that you have stayed in different countries during your childhood, and that ultimately means you have got education from different backgrounds. So, do you think these backgrounds have helped you grow as an entrepreneur? And if so, then how can Indian education system be made more effective in terms of entrepreneurship, according to you?
Yeah. No, surely the fact that I attended many different schools, many different curriculums when I was growing up, shaped who I am. When I look back, I think it was an advantage. People might consider it a disadvantage as well, because every 2-3 years, if you have to move school, you don't develop a sense of belonging, or sometimes you don't develop a good set of friends. And in my case, the countries were so different that the education system was very different. Right, in Africa, the education system was completely different than in India. But it helped me develop who I am, and I must say I am a strong believer in that, because my kids have also now been educated in 4 different countries. Started out in the UK, then to Germany, then to Sweden, and now back to India. And now my son is in Canada, and they also look at it as an advantage rather than a hindrance. Whether it helps you develop entrepreneurship directly, I will not draw that correlation, but I think it helps you become a more resilient person. It helps you become more adaptable, because you're forced to adapt, right? In my case, every 3 years I was moving school, so I had to learn the new way. I had to learn new languages. In some cases, I had to make new friends. So it makes you more adaptable, it makes you more outgoing. That helped. Now, coming to the second part of the question, how can the Indian education system be changed to be more entrepreneurial? I think this focus on knowledge or content is very, very high in the Indian system still. It's all about what you know. With technology, that has become almost irrelevant, because today, with a phone in your hand, you have the world's knowledge at your fingertips. You don't even need to type. You speak to Siri and she'll tell you what you need to know. So content has become less important. Your critical thinking has become more important. So we must change the education system to develop people's critical thinking and problem solving ability. And this I witnessed, especially in Sweden. In Sweden, the education system is very different. First of all, they start very late. In India, we put kids in school at the age of 2 and 3. In Sweden, till the age of 7, they don't go to school. And then for the first few years after 7, I mean, till about 14, 15, if you look at their curriculum, it is so light. You feel, I mean, what are these guys going to do? They can't read properly. Their handwriting is not right. But they put people in groups and they give them like kind of tasks to do in groups. So their problem solving ability, their critical thinking ability starts getting developed from a young age. And then when kids get to the 14, 15-year age, when the brain has developed, that's when the academic kicks in. And their graduate programs are probably one of the toughest. But not like in our case, 3-year-olds are forced into interviews and mugging. So I would say change in emphasis on the education system, starting with the people being forced to think critically, and then content coming much later. My personal experience and advice.
Yeah, surely, sir, I agree to you. And ever since I've got in touch with a few people from UK, I really can accept this fact that yeah, we have a system full of knowledge. We are mainly focused on content, and the people there are, having so much lot of opportunities. They are like attending so many classes at a young age because they are not having any pressure from the school side. I'm like, what will this girl do? She is like 8 years old and she doesn't even know the tables. I have to teach her one times one equals one. So it feels funny, but later on, I'm surprised at how they, grab everything because they are probably put in that thing at the perfect time when
Yeah,
they can, grab things quickly.
yeah, yeah.
So now we have another question by Yes Startups, who are the event supporters for us. So how to deal with imposter syndrome? Like the moment sometimes we open LinkedIn, it feels like everyone is achieving a lot, or while trying for an internship, we feel inferior with people for less experience still grab that. So how
Hmm.
do we deal with that?
It's a very real problem or challenge, right? This social media has uh, has been good in many ways. Like, don't get me wrong, it has been good, and we are much more connected than we ever were as a society. But at the same time, like you said, when you just glance through social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, whatever, you see other people's perfect lives, right? You see how good they are at their work. You see how great time they're having in their holidays. And I guess for young people especially, but even for others, it can be a bit daunting. It can be a bit daunting. I think first and foremost is to realize that that is just one aspect of their life, right? It is like the trailer of a movie. You're going to put the best parts forward. That's not the full movie, right? The trailer of a movie can be great, but there can be boring parts to the movie. So life is like that. Life has all parts. It has the great, exciting, fun parts, and it has the dreary, boring parts, and sometimes it has the very challenging and tough parts. First thing is to recognize everyone's life is like that. There is, I mean, even the most successful person in the world, uh, even Elon Musk, who is like poster boy for all young generation. I'm sure. I mean, he's a guy who has suffered from depressions. He's a guy who has had not had many friends. So I mean, I'm sure he has had his set of challenges. So first thing is to recognize that, and then there was another thing which one of my friends, he made me realize early on. There are two approaches to bettering yourself in life. One is do a good analysis of yourself, find your strengths, find your weaknesses, and try to cover up your weaknesses or build on your weaknesses. That is the traditional approach. But this friend of mine, he said, after doing that first study, that strengths, weaknesses, he said, I'm not going to worry about my weaknesses because those are my weaknesses. I'm going to make sure my strengths are really strong. So he put all his efforts in becoming very good in what he was already a little bit good at. And he said, I accept that I have some weaknesses. And I think that is what I learned from it and I started to do. So, for example, I give you my example in a professional life. So, I'm not a very detailed person. I don't enjoy detail. I like to talk big picture, I like to talk strategy. But it's very important in my role to be detailed as well. So I could put a lot of effort and energy into becoming a detailed person, but that will drain away the fun for me. So how I manage it is I then make sure that in my team I have people who are very detail oriented, and I make sure that when I'm making big decisions, I'm consulting them, and then they're giving me the detailed view while I focus my energy, my efforts on the big picture, the strategy side of things. So that is how I solve it, and I would encourage people in answer to that question, first understand that everyone has good sides and tough sides, and then on your own then figure out how you can augment yourself either through upskilling or through building your partnerships so that you can cover up your weak areas. How
That's
much
great.
time do we have now? More what till what time have we
I
scheduled this?
I guess we have around 10, 5,
Till
10
around
minutes, I guess.
1:50, yeah, 5 to 10 minutes.
Yeah. So
Okay,
actually, I had a personal question ready for you.
sure,
So,
please.
as you mentioned, the cog in a machine system that you experienced in Europe and abroad, why don't you think that that doesn't work well in our Indian structure, corporate structure?
I'm not necessarily saying it doesn't work. It does work. Yeah, I can tell you that in our company today, we have started getting very good business results, and I believe it's because we are starting to work together as a team. So it does work. I'm sure it does. There are many successful companies in India. There are many teams who work well. What I meant to say is it is more common there. Here the system is more, and I was referring more to the education. And when you're fresh out
Hmm.
of college, it's about individual brilliance. Our whole focus is on individual brilliance. We are ranked 1, 2, 3, 4 from a young age. We celebrate awards and all. So that sometimes can be counterproductive when you get into the workplace and you're expected, this is your place and you have to do this well. Don't try to be extraordinary there, because it does not need extraordinary. So
Of course.
that mindset change needs to come in. That is what I meant. I did not say that it does not. I wanted to compare and contrast some of the education systems that I've seen in Europe. Sweden example I've given, where the education system itself helps people to work in a team. The culture itself, from a young age, makes people realize that you are only successful if the whole group is successful.
Right, right. Thank you, sir. So we have one final question for you. It's from Prakir Sharia. He asks, "Sir, when we are doing some startup, first we come up with some ideas, and the biggest confusion of all time is to decide whether this is a good idea or bad idea. So my question is what can be the best way to judge your idea so that we can proceed with it?"
Yeah. So I think there are no bad ideas, right? Honestly, I think there are no bad ideas. But okay, if you still say, then, but what are we trying to do then? How can you then prioritize or filter? Uh, the way I have tried to do is your idea solving a real customer problem, right? If it is, then it's more likely to be uh, successful, is more likely to be useful. Of course, you still need to find the right way to execute it, because execution is very, very important. But the litmus test for me is not just it's great technology and it's a great product, it's great, exciting stuff, but is it solving a problem in the real world? If it is, then it will be successful, and you will be able to build the technology to. I mean, take the example of Uber, right? It is not that their cars are superb and whatever. Yeah, that is important later. But there was a real problem and it started in the Western world, where taxis were very, very expensive, uh, not easy to come by. You had to depend on a number of agents. So there was a real problem that people found about commuting or moving from one place to another. And they tried to address that problem. And in addressing the problem, they came up with a technology which then made it possible. So I would say, try and understand really what problem are you solving, and is that a real problem? Sometimes it's an imagined problem. We get that is what has unfortunately happened now. Is now we are going inside out than outside in. We are saying, oh, I'm good at coding and I have this technology, so let me apply it here. So it will not be a huge success unless you have solved a real problem. So I would encourage you to go outside in, start from the customer, consumer whose problem you're trying to solve, see if the problem you're trying to solve is a real problem, and then figure out, does your technology solve it, or does your business model or does your approach solve it in the right way.
Thank you so much, sir. That was a very imploring session. Now I would like to call our ESL head, Rajnandini, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, so thank you, sir, for your wonderful session on the 7 habits of a highly effective person. And I'm sure that participants might have got an idea about it. We thank you once again for your valuable time, and we hope to see you again for the future events organized by the E7 University. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to be here and to interact with you guys. Thank you for your questions, and wish you all the very best for your future.
Thank you so much, sir.
Have a good day.
Bye. So, guys, now we have I think we have a sponsor segment now. Is that right?
I think we have someone coming from Blunt Energy Drinks, or maybe from Bull. They're also
Yeah,
going to
sponsor
talk
Bull,
about
yeah.
their ideas.
So, guys, how did you like the session? I personally think it was very imploring.
Yeah, please
Please
comment
give
down
your
how did you
idea.
like the session.
Please give your feedback.
And yeah, please thank sir for his kind words. I think it was quite informative. And for the questions which we have missed, and as much as I have answered now one by one. Okay. So like something is. So sir, we are doing some startup. First, we come up with some ideas, and the biggest confusion is that time is to decide whether this is a good idea or some bad idea. Okay, that we've done. Okay. Okay, then one question is regarding that which field should we get into? How do we decide that field? So, like as sir also discussed, that you must have fun while working on something. You must enjoy the work. So, enjoyment of the work is a very crucial factor in deciding that whether that work suits us or not, whether is that field for us or not. So, I think if you are just feeling pressurized and at the end of the day you feel like it was a very big day every day, so it shouldn't. I don't think you should go forward with that idea. You should maybe try making some modifications and shift your focus to some field where you enjoy.
Great. Anamika, I think, everyone's tired now. You think we should go for a lunch break now?
Yeah, we may. Let us confirm with the heads
Yeah, it's
because I
confirmed.
think the session.
So, guys, let's convene for a lunch break. We'll meet back again. So enjoy, and hope you enjoy the sessions. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so dear audience, we will now be taking a short lunch break after which we have further competitions and webinars also. So our co-anchors will be back with them. So please stay tuned till then and jot down your points, whatever you've taken down from the speakers. Okay, till then, take care, stay home, stay safe, and do take very good care of yourselves. And okay, so Pooja, basically
Yeah.
all the slides that we had in the presentation were quotes which you always find on the internet. Our main focus was to emphasize on them and to explain them to the audience